Panama City. Remember what Joe always said, keep Jesus in your life every day.
At Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle, you can find all the necessary items for an unforgettable fishing experience. From pin rods and reels to the best hand-tied rigs in Florida, we have it all. With the help of our friendly and knowledgeable staff, you can be sure that you have the right gear to make that big catch. Come experience a great local bait and tackle shop located directly off 98 on the west end of Panama City Beach, located just 5 miles west of Pier Park.
Are you ready for Panama City's best pizza? Then check out the new Guru's Pizza 786. They don't do just pizza, they also serve wings, pasta, calzones, salads, sandwiches, and more. Guru's Pizza 786 has 50 plus Indian and Italian pizza varieties. They're open Monday through Thursday until midnight, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday until 3 a.m. Takeout and delivery are available. Guru's Pizza 786, 7806 Front Beach Road. Call 850-588-5055. Better quality and better taste.
Hi, this is Matt Lewis with Reliable Hydraulic Solutions. We offer comprehensive diagnostics and repair service for all types of hydraulic units, such as hydraulic and pneumatic cylinders, hydraulic pumps, motors, and valves, as well as a broad range of hydraulic hoses and O-rings. Give us a call at Reliable Hydraulic Solutions at 850-326-3000 for any of your hydraulic needs. Or come see us on Commercial Drive off Jinx Avenue in Panama City.
Time to let the big dogs eat.
How about that answer by Georgia? The end zone, touchdown, Georgia!
Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs. ESPN Northwest Florida.
And we are live. It's the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida. Don't forget about your Atlanta Braves. They're going to be taking on the Dodgers tonight right here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Coverage starting at 6. First pitch at 6:20. Spencer Strider is going to be on the bump for your Atlanta Braves tonight, and he's going to be going up against, I believe, it's going to be the third time that the Braves have faced a pitcher making his Major League debut. So you got Bobby Miller, who's going to make his first ever start tonight. He's a right-handed pitcher, and he'll be on the bump for the Dodgers, whereas Spencer Strider going for the Braves. He's 4-1 with an ERA of 2.96. He's pitched 51 innings, given up 34 hits, 86 strikeouts, and only 18 walks, but we need to see him go a little bit deeper into the ball game. And another thing, this is the place to listen to the Atlanta Braves too. I don't know if you guys Friday, if you tried to watch the game and you don't have Apple TV, just do what I did. And man, you just bring the radio in the house, park, pull your car into the house. Now go get you an old school radio, man. Bring that in and just, man, I love to just try to time it up where I can watch the game and listen to the radio because Joe Simpson and Ben Ingram just do a fantastic job. Jonathan Chadwick also fills in sometimes for Joe Simpson. It sounds like, I believe that's whenever they're on the road this year, but it's been a lot of fun. And I'm seeing here now that you can get tickets to the game as low as $4. That is wild for a Braves-Dodgers game. Last night, Freddie Freeman was back for his second season as a LA Dodger and seemed a lot more comfortable with the Dodgers and happy with the decision that he's made. And, that's really good for him and for his family. He was an all-time Atlanta Brave. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see Freddie Freeman retire as an Atlanta Brave. But for now, stay your tail over there in Los Angeles. Exactly. You are that's just 100% true. And I still think the guy's a great guy without having ever met him and more than likely never will. But I think that he's one of those players that, embody the sport of baseball, and you gotta love that. The Braves updates brought to you by The Break Room. Today's special is meatloaf. Tomorrow's special is chicken pot pie. The Break Room right over there in the old Vic Sports Bar location, or some of you may know it as the Purple Turtle. But you can get these specials here. Like I said, today, meatloaf, tomorrow, chicken pot pie, and on Thursday, it's hamburger steak. These go for $12, and you also get your drink and side with them. Go see Chef Ross at the Break Room. Tell them that the Underdog sent you, man. They, we heard about it yesterday from Brian. their meal, the meatloaf was really good. And I know everything that Chef Ross puts together is amazing. Don't it though? Don't it though? Want to remind you guys as well that we are now streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, so we can get those comments going. 850-215-6290. We'll take your calls and your texts throughout the show today. I'm David Hayes along with Tyler Bishop. What's been going on, Tyler? And in the next segment, I want to look at some of and I found this in the auction group, which is a group that I'm in with Tyler Bishop for fantasy football. I almost said fantasy baseball. That's just because of the season that I'm in right now. But you guys were talking about a Chat GPT most overrated players, top 10 overrated players. I believe that was last week sometime. And the list is kind of,
It's controversial.
It's controversial. I think that's what Chat GPT and these chatbots are really good for.
Yeah.
Controversy.
No, it's always interesting. Like, I don't know. I think we're going to get more into the next segment you said. But what gets me about over rankings and people say, like, oh, that guy's overrated. Well, what is he rated? You know what I'm saying? Like, people say with Ryan Day, just kind of on an off tangent, just something I know more about. Like Lincoln Riley, Ryan Day, these guys are overrated. Okay, but what are they rated? Like,
but in that same list, I believe we're talking about where they've got Kirby Smart ranked 8th.
I'm not talking about list specifically. I'm just talking about
gotcha.
In that chat, like somebody like, oh, so and so's overrated. But what is he rated? Is he rated like a top 12 guy? Like, he's easily a top 12 coach. Talking about both those guys right now, based on what we've seen, it's like, is he a top 3 guy? Probably not. Or you could have your agreements or disagreements on that, but it's like, you got to let me know what you think that guy is rated before I can tell you if I think he's overrated or underrated. Like, that's where a lot of people get kind of funny about being, oh no, they're completely overrated. Well, what is he actually rated? Like,
so, and that's kind of a hard thing to put on a head coach, though. Is like, what's he rated? Because even in Madden, they don't really have that. Yeah. Well, they technically do, more so for the coordinators and stuff like their attributes as coordinators. But for me, I'm a guy. So let's start there though, and we can lead into the next segment with this. And I would love you guys' calls or text here. Ryan Day, is he? You tell me, is he overrated or underrated for your rating?
I mean, I guess
I'll start. I'll say that I do think to an extent overrated.
Yeah, I mean, do I think right now he's a top 5 coach in college football? No. Okay. I'm not going to say he is. And so if that's where you think he is, then I think he's overrated in that sense.
So now I think he's
consistently put up there.
Where are they? That's what you mean.
Like
where do you have him
looking
ranked?
at?
Yeah.
Like personally, he may be like 7 or 8 down there.
I think that I can agree heavily there at 7 or 8. And honestly, you start looking down into that list. All right, so you can pretty much go top 5 pretty easily, right? Where you would go 1A, 1B. I don't care which way you put them, but Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, and either way is going to be fine with me. I think longevity speaks for itself, but if you want to go with Kirby Smart, I'm right there. Well, who's the next best coach in that ring of current coaches right now?
I mean, I know people want to put Dabo there because of the success he had.
Right.
I wouldn't put him there personally.
It would be Dabo or Harbaugh, though, right? Or is that too much love for Harbaugh?
Is it hard to put Harbaugh up there? That's the thing. It gets so... even a guy like Brian Kelly, he's been a great coach, but what has he won, really?
Right.
Jimbo's got a title, but what has he been for the last 10 years?
Yeah.
Since that Jameis Winston year, he hasn't done much. That's why it's hard not to put Dabo up there. Would I personally want him? Probably not. I'd probably rather have Ryan Day than Dabo Swinney, but Dabo Swinney's got the hardware. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I can't knock the fact that he did win 2 titles, played for 2 or 3 more, dominated the ACC for the last decade. As much as I don't agree with him being a top tier coach, the stats are there, and it's hard to argue against.
So let's go. We're there though. We're at Kirby Smart, Nick Saban. Yeah. Who is it for you? Is it who goes third? I'm going to say Dabo. I'm going to say that the hardware, and I know that Clemson's in the ACC, but just like Alabama, right? They go 10-2, and it's, oh my gosh, what in the world's going on with that program? If you get your program to an extent or to that point where the national media looks at you and says, wow, you're terrible at 10-2, whereas your fans, the loyal ones, are sitting like, well, this season wasn't all that bad. Now Clemson did have a couple of slip-ups, but man, they get the quarterback fixed, and I don't think that it's going to be fixed first year with Cade Klubnik, but that's just my opinion. He can come out and Spencer Rattler, you know what I mean, just kind of prove me 100% wrong. Not Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma, but Spencer Rattler latter half of the schedule with South Carolina type deal. So for me, I would put Dabo in the third spot.
I mean, if Kirby Smart retired tomorrow, how would my list go of people replacing him? Essentially, is kind of the way I try to look at it, is who would I want to take over my team? And we could have anybody. I'd probably have to say Brian Kelly. Like
you would go.
I think what he's done with Notre Dame, and I think what he did last year, that growth in LSU, like they were hit or miss at times last year, and I'll give you, but that was such a broken program when Ed O left it.
Yeah,
I mean there was no accountability.
Coming off of a national title, but then
yes. I mean it was the ultimate feast or famine. I mean we kind of saw it with Gene Chizik and Auburn back in the early 20s. Like I don't know if I'd love it, but I think I'd probably say Brian Kelly. Like, I don't think he's a great person, but I think the guy's a great coach, and I think that just kind of is what it is.
You know, at the end of the day, and normally I don't agree, but, you know, when it comes to coaching and everything, a side of me says not necessarily throw the morals out the window. You want your coach to turn your young men to turn your players into young men. There's no doubt about that. But Brian Kelly is one of those guys. For sure, he's in my top 10. Sure, he's in my top 10. So then I would go, for me, number 4. That's where it really gets tough because I think that I would overlook so many coaches, but that, like, if I'm just going off the cuff here, I would overlook so many coaches to throw Harbaugh up there. Whereas really the highlight of what Harbaugh's done in really in his entire tenure is beat Ohio State back-to-back years, but get nothing done in the playoffs.
Yeah. No, I mean, he really screwed the pooch this year with the TCU game. Like, don't give me all the credit in the world to TCU, Sonny Dykes, the season they had. But Harbaugh had a chance to go to the national championship game. Like, would they have won? I'm going to say probably not.
Nah.
But, I mean, he had the
I'll say heck no.
But he had the chance to go. And, I mean, to blow it like they did against TCU, and I legitimately think it was a case of them. I don't think they took him seriously, if I'm being perfectly honest. I mean, heck, they gave it, 2 defensive touchdowns and, another turnover here and there, and they still almost won that game.
Do you think Harbaugh, had that in the player's mind? Not necessarily, hey, don't take these guys seriously, but do you think that Harbaugh took it more seriously than what the players did?
Probably. I think Harbaugh's a great coach. I mean, I think he proved that at Stanford and San Francisco. Even now at Michigan, he's kind of gotten them where people thought they would be a little bit sooner in his tenure. But, I think you don't become that level of coach and not take teams seriously. Did it trickle down to his assistants and the team? Obviously not. And that's a fail on him because you're only, a leader at that point has to take credit for and responsibility for the actions of his underlings or whatever you want of his team at that point. But I'm not doubting he took him seriously, but sometimes we see it in college football all the time. That's why upsets happen. Like, you can't always convince your players, 18 to 22-year-old kids. We were all there. Like, you can't always convince them, like, hey, take these guys seriously, whether you think you should or not.
What are 18 to 22-year-old young men notoriously known for?
Well, a lot of things.
Well, the main thing being they know it all.
Yeah, they know it all.
You know what I mean? So it's hard to get into their skull sometimes. And 25, now they start understanding a little bit more. And that's like one of those things with Ja Morant, which I know this is totally off topic, but it is one of those things, man. Yeah. He can take in all the guidance that he wants, but as long as he's riding around with his buddies who are giving him guidance as well, that's going to be one of those tough things. The problem is with those who have much given to them, much is expected of, and that is the disconnect that he's not understanding yet. But it's not illegal, so there's still a lot to learn for Ja Morant, and I think that he will come around because he doesn't want to throw. You do hope so.
Exciting talent, and you hate to see that kind of talent wasted, whether any sport, in any situation. I mean, there's man, it's so much fun to watch. Like, you don't want to see that blown away.
No doubt. So kind of keeping it rolling here with the top 10 coaches, and then we'll get into the top 10 overrated players. But so I pulled up a list here from PFF, and I really do love lists from PFF. I think they do a fantastic job. So they've got it right along the same lines as us. Nick Saban at 1, Kirby Smart at 2. Then they don't got, in fact, Brian Kelly's right here at 6. Okay, but 3, you got Jim Harbaugh, 4, Dabo Swinney, and then 5, Lincoln Riley. So let's use your method earlier where I tell you Lincoln Riley sitting at 5, overrated or underrated. To me, and I know this is just riding along with my thoughts on Caleb Williams, where everyone else thinks he is a generational talent, but to me, still somewhat overrated for his, I don't know. He is really good. So Don't get me wrong when I say that I think he's somewhat overrated, but Lincoln Riley as well. If they're not in the college football playoff this year, it could be a very long time. Lincoln Riley won't be the head coach of USC the next time that they're in the college football playoff because they're going to the Big Ten.
I like that take.
They're going to the Big Ten.
A lot. Man, I mean, it's hard for me to think he's a top 5 coach when he doesn't take defensive football seriously.
Yeah.
And I mean, part of that's a product of his coaching trees, going up in the Leach and Big 10 and Big 12 and all that kind of stuff. And now at USC, and the Pac-12 is not always known for elite defense. But when you're not taken seriously, I mean, whether through scheme or anything else, like he just obviously doesn't take. I mean, we saw that Cotton Bowl was just insane against Tulane. There's no reason they should have lost that game the way they did. And when you don't take half the game seriously, it's hard for me to take you seriously as a top 5 coach.
Right, and then if you're the head coach and you let your Heisman winning trophy sport what he did, and 100% maybe he doesn't let him or even tell him not to do all that good stuff, but the fact is it happened, and I know, look, stuff's happened at other universities where the players have done much worse than that, no doubt about it. But that's one of those things, man. Like you write that on your nails, and then all of a sudden, the biggest problem I have is not that you wrote it on your nails, but that you wrote it on your nails and then you got your butt beat. Like that to me is the underlying factor. But we'll keep this rolling, at least talking about overrated players. I love these type of conversations. Y'all join into the conversation with us via text, phone call, or on Facebook. 850-215-6290. We're going to take a quick time out. We'll be right back with hour number 2.
This Memorial Day, 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida honors our local heroes. From Port St. Joe, Sergeant Clifford Sims, United States Army, made the ultimate sacrifice. While in heavy combat in Vietnam, company leader Sergeant Sims threw himself on top of an enemy explosive device in order to save the soldiers of Company D. Thank you for your service and great sacrifice. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida. Here is your weather forecast on this Tuesday afternoon. The remainder of the day, likely thunderstorms and sprinkles in 82 with a gentle breeze coming out of the north-northeast at 10 miles per hour. For tonight, likely thunderstorms and very light showers and a low near 68. Tomorrow, possibility of thunderstorms most of the day except some clouds in the evening and a high around 78. This weather forecast is brought to you by Ellis Agency Insurance. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
The road is yours this summer in a new Kia from Bill Bird Kia. Stop by and check out the Bill Bird Kia SUV family that is built for all in adventures and endless possibilities. Whether you're traveling on the highways or off-road, you'll do it with grace and grit. Now offering 3.25% APR up to 48 months on the purchase of a new 2023 Kia Sorento. You'll get the perfect balance of comfort and safety and technology. Bill Bird Kia is the home of the 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Stop by and see us today at 2435 East 15th Street or anytime at BillBirdKiaPanamaCity.com. We'll treat you like family and give you the peace of mind that you can trust.
Offer from Kia Finance for the purchase of a new 2023 Kia Sorento with $22.22 per month per $1,000 finance at 48 months. Quantities limited. No down payment required. Cannot be combined with other finance offers. The 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty is a Bill Bird Kia warranty. See dealer for complete details. Offer for well-qualified buyers. Must take delivery from dealer stock through 7/5/23.
WGSX Lynn Haven, WTOT, W271DM Mariana, WVLQ Port St. Joe, ESPN Northwest Florida. Meanwhile, at Big Ten Sports Show, tune in for the Afternoon Underdogs.
We're live and local here.
Weekdays from 4 till 6.
We need one more SEC team in there to shake things up.
The Afternoon Underdogs are on the air. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Back, baby. It is the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm David Hayes along with Tyler Bishop. We got Randy Williams on the ones and twos with us this afternoon. We didn't get to trivia in the last segment, so we'll open it up here. What team, and I'm just giving them a shout out here because it could very well be a long time before they talk about another Super Bowl in this particular team, but what team won 3 Super Bowls in the 1990s? What team won 3 Super Bowls in the 1990s with their very iconic helmet? or their logo on their helmet there. 850-215-6290. I should have eliminated any need that you had to Google that. You should be able to answer it very swiftly. We're going to be giving you $25 to not but that boot store, along with a 12-pack of Buffalo Rock. And if you call in and you tell me that you like to fish and you like to go fishing for bass, we had a young man on, Ryder Schilling, with us this last Friday. He came in with the Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle, the Real Fishing Report with Tim Braddock. And he makes his own lures. We're talking about a 16-year-old guy who is homeschooled. He's homeschooled, and he competes at a pretty high level for fishing. And he made his own lures, and they sell those over there at Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle. So if you fish and you like to bass fish, I would love to hook you up with one of those lures. Now, if you don't fish and you know someone who does fish a lot, then I'll still give it to you. But I've only got 2 of them, so I'd like to hold on to those and give them to people who really want to utilize them. They're beautiful, and Ryder Schilling does a fantastic job making those things up. And if you'd like to purchase one, go out to Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle. Phenomenal bait shop. In fact, I had 3 buddies text me Friday while we were having the segment, like, I'm headed there right now to actually go get some bait and some sand fleas and hit the water, man. So I love that, and I love having Tim Braddock on. Don't forget the Atlanta Braves tonight, again, taking on the Dodgers. We need all the ears that we can on that game, because we need a win here, man. The Dodgers are a rival now because of the series that they've played in the playoffs. And not only that, but they've got Freddie Freeman and Jason Hayward, man. So let's take a look at what ChatGPT has got as the top 10 overrated players. Now, the caveat here is since 2015. That's the caveat, right? Because there's no Jamarcus Russell on this list, none of that. But we'll start with right now, the San Francisco 49ers, one of their quarterbacks. Who knows if it's going to be Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, or if it's going to be Sam Darnold. But before we dive into this list, let's get over to our phone line. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. Where are you calling from?
We're calling from Marianna, Florida.
Oh, nice. Up there in Marianna. All right. Who do I have on the line with me?
Ken.
Okay, Ken. So tell me, what team won 3 Super Bowls in the 1990s?
That would be the Dallas Cowboys.
That would be the Dallas Cowboys. You are 100% correct. And let me ask you, do you like to go bass fishing?
Yes, I do.
All right, so I've got you a sweet lure that one of our guests that we had on last week actually makes these. A Ryder Schilling. It's with Schilling Baits, and they sell these at Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle. So I'm going to hook you up with that, a $25 gift certificate to not the, but that boot store, and a 12-pack from our good friends at Buffalo Rock.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, Ken, do me a favor and hang on the line, and Randy's going to grab some information from you, okay?
Okay.
All right. Good stuff there. Way to answer that one very quickly. And my first question originally, and this is why I didn't end up asking it, because whenever I re-Googled this, I was like, I don't know if this is correct. So the question was, what team won the first ever football game played at night? And it says the Philadelphia Athletics. But when I went back and looked, I saw multiple different answers. So I was like, I don't.
Just in case.
Well, like yesterday, we were talking about Caleb Martin and his twin brother in the league. And I Googled it, or I'd asked Kyle Wright, is he the son of Kenyon Martin, Kmart from back in the day? And he was like, I don't think he is. And so I Googled it, and the first thing that comes up, yes, they're the twin sons of Kenyon Martin. So I'm like, okay, well, like, boom, enough said. Then, you go down a couple more rows or whatever, and it's like, no, he is not the father of the twin. You know what I mean? He's actually the son of father, Kenyon Martin is the father of Kenyon Martin Jr., which, hey, that makes a lot of sense. You don't got to question things when they're like that. Exactly. So kind of back to this top 10 list here that's provided by ChatGPT. And also, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on what you think the future of, this AI, not Allen Iverson, not the answer, but they give you answers.
Practice.
Yeah, we ain't talking about practice. We're talking about getting it done. And there's a lot of really cool things that AI can do. And a lot of these new ones, these chatbots and stuff, are language models. They learn from just reading on the internet, which is so wild.
Scary to think what they're reading out there on the internet.
Oh, my goodness, man. But 850-215-6290. Give me your thoughts on these top 10 overrated NFL players. We'll start it off here. The number 1 player on the list list is Sam Darnold. And we can just play overrated, underrated with these guys, not necessarily in the list, but do you think Sam Darnold is overrated? In my opinion, as a guy who, man, watching him at USC, and a game I will never forget is that Rose Bowl against Penn State, and they were just going eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, back and forth all game long, and I absolutely loved it. And I thought, the myriad of chances that he got in this league, which some guys just don't get, and it never really panned out. You see flashes from him, you see 4-0 starts from him, but to put it all together, so in that sense, I have to say overrated.
I agree. I mean, he's a guy who was drafted, third overall, I believe, in his draft class, and has not. I mean, he's on his third team. That's if you're a top 5 pick and you're on your third team as a quarterback in 6 or 7 years, you were overrated coming out. I mean, whether that was based on talent or off the field, anything else, him seeing ghosts or anything like that. That's all.
Seeing ghosts, man. I forgot about that.
That's a whole different thing. I actually had some high hopes for him when he got to Carolina. I thought him and Joe Brady were going to be a great combo, and it never panned out. And now they've completely rehauled that whole team, and Matt Rule's gone, and in Nebraska now. So, yeah, he's overrated based on where he was drafted.
Caveman Rick says Darnold, no way, won. But I guess my other question to Caveman Rick would be, and I'll read your comment off here on Facebook, would be, do you think Sam Darnold's overrated, though? Because what we're going to do is go through these top 10, play overrated, underrated, and then try to line them up how we see them. Now, the next guy coming in is the running back. Oh, Caveman Rick, this is a good comment here. Number 1, probably Carson Wentz. Is Carson Wentz even on this list?
No, he's not on the list at all.
And that is wild.
But he did have an MVP type season on that Super Bowl run. I know he got hurt late, but
but what happened after that? Now you can say it's due to injury. I mean, Andrew Luck could be. Andrew
Luck delivered when he was there. It was short lived.
I just would love to poke some fun at. That's my favorite thing when I'm talking to Colts fans, and somehow I don't know how in the world we have so many Colts fans. Well, my favorite thing is a little passive aggressive type, where it's like, man, you know how good you guys would be if y'all had Andrew Luck right now, and it hurts them so deep, and that's the beauty of sports, though, is that you can get away with saying those kind of mean things, but and it's not mean spirited. It's all in fun and games.
You can try to trash talk. It's about sports, so it's all good.
Yeah, Caveman saying Donald got put in a bad spot going to the Jets. I mean, yes, 100% there. Carson Wentz got into a great spot with the Eagles, but, could not sustain the success and then found himself with the Colts. So, Carson Wentz is going to find his way onto this list. He has to, right? And it's not going to be through ChatGPT, but through Tyler Bishop and David Hayes. The next guy that we've got on the list, coming in at number 2, is going to be the running back. Is he still currently with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
I think he's done.
He's done with the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I think he got cut this past offseason. Or didn't get re-signed, I think.
So Leonard Fournette is who we're talking about. I'll look that up. You tell me, are we looking
I've always thought Fournette was a little overrated. Even back to his LSU days, he would have days at LSU where he was just insane. They had other days where he was just completely average, I felt like. Especially a couple of those games against Bama, which granted, Bama at the time was stout. I'm not knocking that, but I still think if you're a top-tier player, you can make something
at least get a hundo.
I don't think but there were some of those games he had 30 yards or something. It wasn't even that he didn't get 100. It was that he didn't even get 50. And I think that's a bad. And I think even in the NFL, he would have feast or famine days, and that's why they always called him Playoff Lenny, because in the regular season he wasn't much, but he got to the playoffs and he stepped up. Which, granted, that's a redeeming quality.
That's great, but you got to have that regular season, at least enough momentum to get to the playoffs.
And then, going to Jacksonville wasn't a great situation. He was, a top 5 pick, I think, when he went to Jacksonville, and I think that's just completely over drafting a running back, whoever it is. It doesn't matter who the running back is. If you're drafting in the top 5, that's today seems silly.
I'm going to say, over the course of his entire career, I will use the term overrated, but not to have him number 2.
No, he's not the second highest or the second most overrated player in the last 8 years or 7.5, whatever you want to.
Yeah,
those rankings in there are kind of odd. I don't understand how they came up with those, but I'm not AI, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming in at number 3 is going to be a Pro Bowler, a former Pro Bowler, now backup quarterback to Kenny Pickett in the Pittsburgh Steelers, which I would love to know what Big Ben's thoughts are. He did not want to see Kenny Pickett succeed. Who really wants to see? I don't know. I have a tough time thinking about that. Do you want to see as a retired quarterback, want to see your successor succeed? But
so is he just not a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Like, was that just
that's my question, right? It's like, do you want to see the Steelers succeed, or do you not want Kenny Pickett to outshine Big Ben Roethlisberger?
I mean, he would, 2 Super Bowls? Like, yeah. I mean, it would take a lot for Kenny Pickett to overtake Big Ben's like legacy in Pittsburgh. And I mean, does he dislike Mike Tomlin? Is he just not a fan of the Steelers at that point? Like, it seems kind of a petty thing to care that much about this early in his career. Like, maybe if he starts building up, like, oh, come on, I don't want him to pass my records, but like in the short term, like wanting him to be good enough to keep the Pittsburgh Steelers relevant, but not be good enough to be better than you, I can get that. But that he would still be succeeding at that point.
So we're talking about Big Ben and his comments that he had towards Kenny Pickett, and Kenny Pickett says he totally understands those, but we're leading into Mitch Trubisky is on this list at number 3 as one of the top 10 overrated players in the NFL. Is Mitch Trubisky to you overrated, underrated? For me, I'm going to say that he's rated. I don't like him sitting here this high at number 3, but I don't think that he's necessary. I think when he was drafted, highly overrated. Yeah. Somehow he made it to the playoffs, but why in the world did a guy from North Carolina who didn't really do crazy and above and beyond type things? Yeah, what does that point signs to? Now, the difference is there's a big difference in the comparison I'm about to make. Anthony Richardson. The difference is the measurables for Anthony Richardson are there. And that is to me, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, we don't know what those guys are going to do either. But to take a guy like Anthony Richardson, who only had that 1 year, that's going to be very interesting to see how it works out for the Colts, who desperately need to get rid of the Band-Aid that they've had at that position of quarterback for him. But Pro Bowler Mitch Trubisky, I've got him rated here. What about you?
I'm kind of with you. Like, he was obviously, I think, drafted higher than he probably should have been based on a lot of things, especially with Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes going after him. In hindsight, that looks awful. But, I mean, has he ever been thought of as a top quarterback? You know what I'm saying? Like, has he ever been rated? You know, kind of back to what I said earlier, like, what is he rated? And I'll tell you if he's over or underrated. I don't think he's ever been thought of as a top-tier quarterback at any time in his career. So I think he was overdrafted. But I don't know if he's ever really been rated high enough to be considered overrated.
I guess when we sit around here and calling him Pro Bowler.
Hey, Pro Bowler. Hey, that's just a fact.
Yeah, that's it is. Facts. We'll go to number 4 here, and this one's interesting. Ezekiel Elliott, another free agent running back. We were talking about Leonard Fournette. He is a free agent. And Zeke, first off, before we dive into this, are you surprised that Ezekiel Elliott has not been picked up to this point? And where would you like to see him go? Or not where would you like? What's a good fit for Zeke?
Honestly, I've heard I don't know. I can't remember exactly if they addressed it in the draft, but I know Cincinnati had a lot of hype around Zeke right after he was released. I don't know if there's been any legs to that or if they've addressed it in other ways, but I mean, he's going to go to a place where he's not going to be the main guy. I mean, and I'm curious to see what his confidence, what his ego allows him to do as far as, like, is he okay being the second or third guy? Is he okay playing for minimal money? Or has he decided, like, hey, I've made enough money, I'm not going to go put my body through that to be the second or third option and not be the guy. I don't know him well enough, and anybody who knows him well enough to say that for sure. But that's going to be the interesting thing, because it's a pride thing for a lot of these guys. Like, it's not easy, because, I mean, these guys are the guys since they were 6, 7 years old.
Yeah.
For a lot of them. I mean, they've never not been the guy. Like, to all of a sudden feel like you can do it, but nobody else does. That's not always the easiest thing to come to grips with.
Yeah, especially when you get to the league, though. And what's the first thing that you always hear from newcomers to the league is, wow. We're all on the same level, man. Now, yeah, you're going to have some running backs who do certain things better than the others, but, you know, at that same time, you're going to be lacking in a certain category or a certain lane, and someone else will be better than you in that position. And then again, let's talk about the position of running back. How long is that shelf life looking for the position of running back?
5 years right now.
Right. And that's at a great pace, you know what I mean? And we talk about this with Derrick Henry all the time, or at least I do, is one of the things that I think benefited the career of Derrick Henry and why he's, you know, still being able to run at the level that he is because his first 2 years in the league, he was a backup and not getting very many carries at all to DeMarco Murray. And I think that really benefited his career. You look at Patrick Mahomes now, not necessarily on the health side of things, but I feel like majority of quarterbacks who have the opportunity to sit behind a a veteran quarterback, I think that they're going to end up being better if they get that year to kind of fill everything out.
Marinate a little bit.
Yeah, marinate, exactly. So, Zeke, for me, now, did you
I don't think he's overrated. I think at one point he was a top tier back in the league. I mean, now he's probably not what he used to be. He's partly injuries, partly age. And I mean, I think he was overdrafted because I kind of said a few minutes ago, like drafting a running back that high, and they never won a Super Bowl out of it. They like made a couple playoff games, but won two.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think he was worth it in the long run. But I don't think as a player he was overrated because I feel like he was a pretty darn good player in his prime, and then he got paid and hurt, and now he's the Zeke we know today that got replaced by Tony Pollard.
Yeah. I'm going to say I can't call. I'm with you, man. I think for me, the biggest thing why I would want to put the sticker of overrated is because the whole, I'm going down to Cancun or wherever it was that he was going at the point in time, and the whole holdout and everything. But I think that he got good production out of his career, and you look at his college career, especially those last 4 or 5 weeks of his tenure there at Ohio State, and it's like, it's very hard to call a guy like that overrated, especially when he runs all over you in the college football playoff there. And for it, so I'm not going to say that he's overrated. I'll have him right there at not underrated either. So
no, he's definitely not underrated.
He's definitely not on a top 10 list in my opinion. But for a team that I would like to see him sign with, we keep on talking about the Miami Dolphins needing a power back, and Zeke is not a featured back anymore. And you've got Mostert over there. You've got Jeff Wilson. I wouldn't, if you could get Zeke for the right price.
That's going to be.
That's going to be. That's going to be the tough thing. No one wants to pay. I think you can make the argument. There's a reason why Derrick Henry's still in Tennessee too, because that contract. There's a reason why Austin Eckler still is going to remain with the Los Angeles Chargers now, because you can trade for this guy, you can pay this guy, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get anywhere close to the value that you're paying for him with that running back position, and all it takes is 1 or 2 hits and the guy's out for the year, you know, and that's tough. So Miami Dolphins would be a fun team for Zeke if they could get him for the right deal.
I like it as a nice compliment to the rest of that fast-paced offense.
All right, so I'm seeing a name here, Jameis Winston, but I'm not seeing the opposite name of that, who they went 1 and 2, right?
Yeah, I'd say Marcus Mariota was.
Marcus Mariota's got to be way more overhyped than what Jameis Winston was, or at least overrated, if you will. So Jameis Winston coming. Oh, we skipped OBJ, but is OBJ
hit him before? I mean,
is OBJ overrated to you?
I think a little bit.
I'm going to say no.
No,
I'm going to say. I don't think he's underrated, but I think everyone wants to point back to that one catch and everything, and it's like, no, for a while.
He was a 1,000. Guy, yeah. He's the guy I go back and forth. I feel like he got more hype because of that catch.
Oh, he did.
If it wasn't for that, he would have been thought of as much more like very good, but probably never like elite wide receiver.
Yeah.
And I think that may have been a little bit more accurate to where he was. But
so to an extent, then
I think he was a little.
The way you explained that is overrated.
I'm not saying he's a bad player. I think he was a very good. I don't know if he was ever like super elite like a lot of people thought he was.
I like that, and I like to stick to my guns about that one just because we've had the conversation so many times. But I'm not mad, and I can totally understand when someone would like to say that OBJ is overrated. I'm sure that if I go to Facebook right now, Caveman Rick's definitely going to say, well, he hasn't said that. No, well, no, not with OBJ. I don't think that he has a real bias against OBJ, but I would imagine him, thinking that he's overrated. He also says Kyle Pitts so far has been overrated. He's got Daniel Jones. Now we're just reading things off of the list here, but quickly.
OBJ is overrated.
All right, OBJ is overrated. Definitely, and I love the honesty there, too. But Daniel Jones, real quick, not a guy on this list, but I do want to get your take there. Overrated, underrated. For me, drafted overrated. Yeah. Another guy drafted overrated, but at the end of the day is doing his job and doing it well, and you can give all the credit in the world to Saquon and to Brian Daboll, but, Daniel Jones did his thing, too.
He was drafted higher than maybe a lot of people expected going into the draft. He took the Giants to the playoffs this year. They gave him a 4-year extension, which in their mind makes them think that he was worth that pick. And I don't think he's ever been considered a top 20 quarterback, really. Has anybody ever said he's higher than that? So, it's hard to say he's overrated.
I think Giants fans
overdrafted a little bit.
Giants fans will say that, but I mean, I don't really care
that. Throw it out the window.
Yeah, that's like we say the Titans are the best team in the AFC South. We know better.
Maybe overdrafted, but I think right now he's rated. He's not over or under at this point.
Caveman says Daniel Jones is overrated because of where he was drafted and because, or maybe he means not, but and because of expectations. We've got to get to a break. We've gotten halfway through this top 10 overrated NFL players list, and we're going to keep it rolling. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. Give us a call, man, 850-215-6290.
It's my house, come on, turn it up. Hear a knock on the door in the night.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Colin Cowherd. I'm comparing this LeBron to LeBron in his prime. Of course he looks average. Of course he looks old and at times mediocre. And of course he disappears at times. Stop comparing this LeBron to old LeBron and just compare him to the rest of mortals.
The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Weekdays, ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with your latest forecast on ESPN Northwest Florida this Tuesday. For tonight, very light showers and likely thunderstorms and a low of 68 with a gentle breeze at 8 miles per hour out of the northeast. Tomorrow morning, possible thunderstorms and very light rain with temps around 76. In the afternoon and evening, a mixture of some clouds and a possibility of thunderstorms and a temperature near 78. This forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumberyard in Panama City. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Hi, this is Matt Lewis with Reliable Hydraulic Solutions. We offer comprehensive diagnostics and repair service for all types of hydraulic units, such as hydraulic and pneumatic cylinders, hydraulic pumps, motors, and valves, as well as a broad range of hydraulic hoses and O-rings. Give us a call at Reliable Hydraulic Solutions at 850-326-3000 for any of your hydraulic needs. Or come see us on Commercial Drive off Jinx Avenue in Panama City.
Golf Plus is your premier golf shop on the Gulf Coast. Not a big box or a chain store, but a local store with golf experts to serve you. An amazing array of demo and fitting products, plus a professional repair shop that can handle anything from a basic re-grip to a full set of re-shafts and everything in between. Golf Plus has locations in Dothan and Panama City Beach to serve you. Come see them today for all your golf needs. Located next to Firefly at the shops at Edgewater. Call 850-249-2726.
In your face.
Questionable calls all over the NFL this year.
On the field.
Quantify to put a value on momentum. You can't do that.
And in your radio.
Hashtag NFL rigged.
Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs. ESPN Northwest Florida.
And we are back. We're live and local. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs, and you're tuned in to ESPN Northwest Florida. It's 104.3 Panama City, 102.1 in Marietta, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. We're the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm David Hayes along with Tyler Bishop. Don't forget about your Atlanta Braves taking on the LA Dodgers tonight. Coverage starting at 6. First pitch tonight at 6:20. The Atlanta Braves are sponsored locally by Bill Bird Kia, reliable hydraulic solutions, Mid-South Lumber, Stormore, Portable Buildings, and Brock Pest Control. Thank you guys for your sponsoring and having the Atlanta Braves right here on the great ESPN Northwest Florida. We left off talking about the top 10 overrated players in the NFL since the year of our Lord 2015, according to ChatGPT. And we left off with number 6. We didn't dive into him, Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston, you can talk about the eyes or whatever, but he did have that. You talk about the measurables of Anthony Richardson. Well, at the time, Jameis Winston had, not the muscle and all of that good stuff, but he had the size that you wanted, and won the Heisman. Coming off the national championship. Well, he wasn't coming off the national. Because it was the year after.
They went undefeated, lost to Oregon the first year of the playoff.
Whooped by Oregon. That was a very tough loss for the Noles. But with Jameis Winston here sitting at 6, first off, overrated or underrated?
I think he's a little overrated. I mean, he was overdrafted. I don't know if he's overrated necessarily. I mean, I know it's kind of like I'm kind of trying to pick both sides of the coin there, but I kind of similar to some of these other guys, like he was never people always hoped he would make that leap, but he was always such a high risk, high reward guy. Like, I mean, he would throw 5 touchdowns and then 3 pick sixes the next week type deal. And I think, I obviously, he was a number 1 overall pick that didn't re-sign with the team. So that alone, it was a bad pick, and he never turned out to be the guy they hoped. I don't know if he was ever rated high enough, but if he was ever considered more than like a top 15 quarterback, then yeah, he was probably overrated. I mean, but who, for that draft of quarterbacks where you've got Marcus Mariota and Jameis Winston, I don't know another direction that the Bucs should have went, though. I'm not saying it was the wrong pick. Right. I'm just saying in hindsight, it turns out he wasn't worthy of the pick. Is that's what we're trying to look back and say. He's a guy that I really do love to root for, though. I think one of the main things is any guy, collegiately or professionally, or definitely in high school, if you're playing baseball and football, man, I'm gonna double down and root for you, and I loved all of the other things that his off the field antics, which were crucified and magnified by the media, but they were very funny. They now stealing from Publix. I don't know the whole backstory there, or I don't remember it vividly. So that's never a green flag or anything like that. But compared to some of the other things that we've seen people get away with or they get in trouble for, but yet, the very next season they're playing football, I don't know. It was just one of those things. He just seemed like a lighthearted type fellow, and I wish that his career would have went to another level. So with that being said, I have to say that overrated. That's fair. Greatly rated as a backup quarterback, but as a starter in the National Football League, overrated. Now, here's the other thing. Jameis Winston, as great of an arm as he had, was never meant for that air raid offense of Bruce Arians, though. Yeah. And so that, I think, was another thing that kind of that year that he threw for more interceptions than he did touchdowns. 30 for 30. Yeah, 30 touchdowns. Same amount, same ratio, even ratio there, was one of those things that had he been in a primarily run first type offense, I think you get a better Jameis Winston, which would have been great for the league, especially had they ever been able to get that Heisman versus Heisman rivalry kind of started, because I'm thinking about it, and I don't think in the quarterbacks that I know in my lifetime, where I'm not going back and studying or anything, but able to watch, I can't remember seeing, like your Brady and Manning rivalry, but that with a Heisman versus a Heisman winner. Yeah. And had they been able to, Marcus have a good career and Jameis have a good career, that could have been something very special. I mean, how many Heisman quarterbacks in the last, Carson Palmer was a Heisman guy. He was good for a while. But, then you get guys like Troy Smith in there who won it. Tim Tebow won it. Great. Kyler, Kyler Murray hasn't done much. Baker Mayfield hasn't done much. Johnny Manziel didn't do much. Cam Newton had a good run for a while. A good start to his career. But you're talking an 03 to 2010 jump, so that's a 7-year gap there. Yep. And, the next best quarterback, is Joe Burrow. He's proven so far to be good. But, outside of that, the main quarterbacks in the NFL have not been Heisman guys. So you could get like a Joe Burrow versus Kyler Murray, but obviously, like we just talked about, Kyler Murray hasn't really shown it to this point. Bryce Young's won the Heisman, so there could be something there, but they're, again, just like Tampa Bay and Tennessee, in different conferences, so you're not going to be able to see that unless it hits the Super Bowl as far as a big-time rivalry in the playoffs. But Caleb Williams out there, and we'll see what could happen. So I think we both agreed there, Jameis Winston, overrated. How about Melvin Gordon? This one is I feel like it's an odd inclusion. It is an odd inclusion, and I think that his last 2 years are what people really look at and say, oh, highly overrated, right? Or maybe that's where ChatGPT is pulling that from. Released by the Broncos last year, if I'm not mistaken, right? He had the good time of his career was with the Chargers. Yeah. And then when he went to Denver, it just never really panned out in the direction that we expected it to pan out. So what are we thinking about Melvin Gordon? Would you say through his entirety or since 2015 he's overrated? Look, I had to pull up his stats because I was curious. He's a guy who only one time went over 1,000 yards. There's one year he was right at 997, so just under it. But I mean, never more than 10 rushing touchdowns. I'm sure he had a few receiving and stuff. So if you want to get total yards and everything, but I mean, I guess he had a 3-year run where scrimmage yards he had 1,400, almost 1,600, and then almost 1,400 again, and
but only
38 touchdowns or 28 touchdowns. No, 38. Touchdowns over that span. Like, that's a pretty solid 3-year run for a running back. And then, he's obviously fallen off some recently, but we were talking about that short. I don't know if he's overrated enough to put him on this list. But if somebody wants to tell me he's overrated, I'm not going to sit there and fight tooth and nail to say I disagree.
Yeah, he is one of those guys, and I think that's where ChatGPT can kind of get away with this slightly. Next, we'll go to a wide receiver who's playing for Cleveland right now, and Amari Cooper. This one's going to be a tough one for me, but I just don't think – I'm not going to say he's underrated by any means, but you're still getting great production out of Amari Cooper, and when he was with Dallas there, forget about the Oakland stretch or the Las Vegas, but it was Oakland at the time when he was there. I'm pretty sure.
At least for the most part.
Then goes to Dallas. And there's so many mouths to feed from a wide receiver standpoint there, or at least I believe in his second year. And then you get traded to Cleveland, and man, with Jacoby Brissett, great. But I think when Deshaun Watson got in there, he kind of, your stud fantasy football guys, Nick Chubb and Amari Cooper, who were, Amari Cooper was kind of up and down last year, but you could almost count on every other game being a 20-point performance. And then when Deshaun Watson got in there, it kind of changed gears. So I'm wondering how that cohesion and chemistry is going to be between Amari Cooper and Deshaun Watson for next year. But overrated, underrated, what do you say about Amari Cooper?
I mean, he's got 6,000 plus yard seasons as a wide receiver, and in 8 years. That's
6 out of 8 ain't too shabby.
That's pretty solid.
Is 1,000 still like the benchmark? I mean, you see guys like Justin Jefferson and the elite, the Devontae Adams and stuff, and they're getting up there to 1,700 yards plus a year. So is 1,000 that benchmark still for a wide receiver in this day and age of pass-heavy offenses, where it's like, if you cut 1,000 yards, because I still think of it that way, but I'm wondering, am I wrong? Am I outdated by considering a guy who catches 1,000 yards in a single season to be the benchmark for that is a maybe not elite, but a great wide receiver?
I mean, how many guys would you think in the NFL in an average year go over 1,000 yards? I'm just trying to look it up from last year.
Yeah, let me take a stab at this because I find it to be very interesting. I would say that you had 22 guys over 1,000 last year.
Yeah, well, exactly 22, including Travis Kelce.
Okay, so that doesn't count then. 21.
So 20. And Mark Cooper was one of them last year. So 20 guys besides him.
Okay, so wow. I mean, first off, pretty good.
That firmly puts him into like a wide receiver one category, which, he was a top 4 pick. So if you want to argue he wasn't worth a top 4 pick, I can agree with that. But I don't think he's overrated by any means, though.
Yeah, I like that then. So I felt like I was going to be using my Bama bias there to consider Amari Cooper not overrated.
I think by every stretch of the match, I don't see why you would call him overrated unless somebody was saying he was like a top 5 wide receiver, which I don't think anybody really ever has.
Now, I normally always start lists from 10 and work my way up to 1, but there's a reason why we started with 1 and worked our way back here. So coming in at number 9, we're talking about the quarterback from the Buffalo Bills. The whole reason why maybe you should rethink your utilizing of AI. Josh Allen coming in at number 9. Let me ask you, Tyler, do you think that Josh Allen is overrated, underrated, or just flat out rated?
I don't hate him. I don't know if he deserves to be on this list. I don't hate people saying he's overrated though.
So why is that? Why do you think that, or why does it not bother you, or why are you okay with Josh Allen being considered overrated when he was one of the guys last year that was supposed to be in the Super Bowl?
Well, people were going into last year saying, like, Josh Allen, is he a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes? And a lot of people had him as a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes.
And come on.
He wasn't.
Let's get real.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, let's get real.
Even now, he's still got guys that are saying he's the second best quarterback in the NFL, and I don't think he's better. I wouldn't take him over Joe Burrow right now. The way the last 3 years have played out, I know you could. You can't say that he's hurting for weapons really up there in Buffalo. I know Joe Burrow's got some studs down there at wide receiver, but I'm not sure I'd take him over Joe Burrow. So he's at best third in his own conference. And last year we were talking about him being the best quarterback in the NFL. I think he's a little overrated. I think he's a great player. I don't think he's close to being the best quarterback in the league, which a lot of people were trying to make him out to be last year.
So, like, where his standpoint is, like what you were getting at when we first started talking about all of this is, I'll tell you if I think a guy is overrated or underrated based on where you have him rated. So if you think that he's the third best quarterback in the National Football League, I would say rated, right?
Yeah.
Or you would say rated right there. But if you try to put him at 1 or 2, then at that point,
I think he's
it's
overrated.
too close to call, and he's become overrated at that point. Because I'm with you though, man. When you put it like that, I'm not taking anyone over Patrick Mahomes. I'm not taking anyone over Patrick Mahomes. First off, winning a Super Bowl on a bum leg is good enough reason. But secondly, it's not just about, how he quarterbacks. It's the sidearm throws, which, again, that is quarterbacking, and that's what I'm trying to get at. It's the things that set Patrick Mahomes apart from the rest of the league. Like, he does not have the legs that Jalen Hurts does, but he can avoid sacks at, close to that same clip there. Joe Burrow might be, if he's not, he might be the best. He's top 2 at pocket presence.
Yeah.
Have we really ever seen, and you talk about that offensive line and what he's been able to do with, the offensive line did grow last year for sure, but the year before, you get sacked 9 times in a playoff game, you're supposed to lose.
Yeah.
The script writers had that in the book with an exclamation point on it.
They wrote that bad boy in ink.
Yeah, exactly. And he proved the naysayers wrong there. So for me, that's what it definitely comes down, or for me, I would have to say, if you're going to put Josh Allen at a clear-cut number 3, like Jalen Hurts is another guy. Like, depending on where you've got him at, if you got him at 1 or 2, I think you got Jalen Hurts a little overrated. However, all of these guys that we're talking about right now, so young, and the ceiling
it's
is
gonna be
just
so much
so
fun.
high.
The position of quarterback is in great hands. And kind of going back to what you're saying about Patrick, just watching him play football, is fun. He just looks like he's out there playing backyard football. And I can't remember the last time I don't even know if we've had a guy, maybe Michael Vick, and not that they were in similar styles, but he was such a stark contrast to most everybody else was doing in the NFL. He was kind of a similar way of being just so much different, or so much more different than anybody else.
Yeah. But to the credit that we were talking about with Mahomes, with Hurts being different, with Josh Allen is that way too, because he's like Big Ben, but with a little bit more athleticism. Not a knock on Big Ben.
It's almost like a mixture of Big Ben and Cam Newton.
Yeah, he is. Without maybe not the speed necessarily that what Cam Newton possessed, but at the end of the day, he was. And that's kind of the beauty of where we're at in this world of the NFL right now, is all of these quarterbacks are, a lot of them are different. There's not this prototype. You got Bryce Young coming into the league, and this isn't a new thing at all, but I'm saying if he pans out to be something somewhat special, he's not the same body style as some of these other guys. Even Kyler Murray is his closest comparison when it comes to the body size, and Kyler Murray's a little bit bigger, and they're just kind of built
I think we've almost officially broken the mold, so to speak, for NFL quarterbacks. It's awesome to see, because it just brings so much variety to the game and the offenses.
It really is, and it makes it harder on scouts, because they're looking at Anthony Richardson back to him, and it's like what he is getting looked at, in my opinion, for the most part, is what he did at the combine, and how the ceiling is just so high.
The ceiling is Empire State Building high.
But what about the floor, though?
The floor is it's pretty low.
It's it's the foundation that got lost in the flood or something underneath the basement.
Yeah, it's down there.
Right. But, and that's the wild thing, because with Joe Burrow, with Patrick Mahomes never had the hype though until that first, off season, before he was ever a starting quarterback. But when you started hearing murmurs out of the Chiefs camp where it's like, this guy's the next big thing, and you're like, oh, okay.
Everybody says that, though.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone says that, and then his first 4 games, and you're just like, oh, this guy is the real deal. You're riding with the afternoon. We got 2 more minutes. We're gonna keep it rolling then. So yes, the NFL is in fantastic shape right now when it comes to their quarterbacks, and we'll leave off with this last one. I had a biased one in Amari Cooper. Todd Gurley. I don't know how he's on this list. Coming in at number 10 is one thing, but Todd Gurley overrated or underrated? I would say Todd Gurley now. the injuries played a huge pivotal role, but I would say underrated because of how much love Jared Goff, and you're seeing Jared Goff do some great things with the Detroit Lions right now. But without Todd Gurley, the Rams are not playing in that Super Bowl.
The numbers he put up in such a short time were elite. Like they were crazy numbers and total touchdowns. I mean, the longevity wasn't there, and if you want to argue he wasn't worth a top 10 pick because of the longevity, I may not argue with you a whole lot. But I mean, as far as him as a player, he was an absolute stud. Helped them make the Super Bowl. They ended up not winning it and lost to the Patriots and Tom Brady. But
one of the most boring Super Bowls.
But he was.
But
watching him play was just electric.
Oh yeah, no doubt about that, man. But that was it was a hard Super Bowl to watch. I think what was the final there? 13-3.
I think it was 10-3.
10-3 or 13-3.
Scored the only touchdown.
Something like that, man.
Running back Super Bowl.
Oh my goodness, man! I bet that had to be a lot of fun for you.
That was a lot of fun. It was like a win-win for me.
And you guys are getting to that point right now, the Georgia Bulldogs, that is, where, you've got teams littered across the league. You've got one team that looks like
Georgia North.
The adult version of the Georgia Bulldogs. Yeah, exactly. The NFL version, rather. We've got to get to a break. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. You're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. It's on 104.3 in Panama City, 102.1 in Marietta, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. Send us your text, 850-215-6290. We're going to hit you with some local when we get back.
Your attention, please. ESPN Northwest Florida reminds you it's the law. It's the law. When there's a double red flag, stay out of the water, stick your toes in the sand, grab a cold drink, and listen to live sports.
Swung on, miss, strike 3.
At 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Double play!
City, we say shop local. And now you can at the Local Cafe. The Local Cafe is a new restaurant run by locals. Open 7 days a week, starting with breakfast at 7. Try the 2-2-2 for breakfast. 2 eggs, 2 pancakes, and 2 sausage patties. The best home cooking, like country fried steak, grilled pork chops, meatloaf, Salisbury steak, and many other delicious dishes. Plus the best homemade cakes and pies. The Local Cafe, 23rd Street, near Home Depot.
By now, you've heard us talking about Tiger TV Pro. Hi, David Hayes from the Afternoon Underdogs, here to remind you about this incredible streaming service with over 6,000 premium channels. And the cost, you ask? $15 a month. Yes, only $15 a month. Every sports channel is available, including the ACC and SEC network, the NFL, NBA, MLB, HBO, Showtime, and thousands more. For more info, go to our website at espnpc.com. Scroll down and click the Tiger logo.
Are you looking for a way to stay safe and independent at home? If so, then you need to look at Compassionate Love Home Care. Compassionate Love Home Care provides a variety of services to help seniors and people with disabilities live safely and comfortably at home, making each day the best it can be. To learn more about Compassionate Love Home Care, please call 850-628-8438 or visit their website, CompassionateLoveHomeCare.com.
It moves fast. The High School Spotlight. Weekdays at 5:40.
Let's do it.
Sponsored by Barbaritos. ESPN Northwest Florida.
We are bad to the bone here at ESPN Northwest Florida, and you are riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm David Hayes along with Tyler Bishop. You're tuned in to ESPN Northwest Florida. Don't forget, this is our last segment today, and the Atlanta Braves will be blasting through your airwaves here in just a few short minutes, well, about 15 minutes. And then the first pitch tonight, 6:20. Expect a lot of strikeouts because Spencer Strider is on the mound. Hopefully we get some good homers tonight from your Bravos, or a good output of offense, because they're going to be going up against Bobby Miller, who's making his major league debut. And so far, if I'm not mistaken, the Braves have won both of the games where they went up against pitchers making their Major League Baseball debut.
Real quick, I got a question about that. So you mentioned this like the third or fourth time. So I know they say in like other sports like football, when a quarterback's making his first start, there's no film on him, so he's harder to game plan for. Is that a thing as much in baseball? Like, you don't understand their tendencies as far as pitching and maybe kind of like their
There's
niches?
not as much because it's not at the major league level, but you still, how long was he in AAA? He's going to have a little bit of footage there. Now that's also going to be going up against AAA players. But yeah, there is one of those things like you can give a starting pitcher half a season, and then then all of a sudden something changes and he's getting rocked, and it's because
picking up on the
and
cues.
Baseball is a game that when I was growing up, the back of the baseball card meant a lot and everything, but the analytics were not the game was not as analytically driven as what it is today. So that they've got a plethora of numbers that they can utilize against that guy. But still, I mean, if you're the pitching coach of this guy, or if you're Dave Roberts, the manager of the Dodgers, you don't want to ride with those tendencies. Plus, he's going to have a new catcher calling his game for him, and so that it's not going to be the same as what it was in AAA and AA. So there's an idea, but nothing's concrete evidence.
So it's not quite as dramatic as it can be in other sports, but it does play a small role.
Well, like in football, you're totally going off of, like for a rookie quarterback, you're totally going off of what you saw from him in his 3 to 4 years in college, right? And that's up against college competition, and that's with him in his old playbook. So now you have to, if you're the DC planning for this guy, you have to re-envision your game plan and try to imagine the quarterback, how his play style at his college or in his college days, and put him in that offense that he's going to be running.
More projecting.
Yeah, it's a lot of projecting there. Basketball, I think you can throw basketball out the window in a sense, like meaning he's going to have his tendencies, but a rookie is going to be a rookie.
Yeah.
They're going to be a rookie in every single sport, but it's all going to be kind of freshly based, and it's 5-on-5. So. In hockey, I don't have good enough of an answer to really put that out into the air. But this is your local high school sports spotlight, and that's brought to you by Barbaritos, where food, community, and people matter the most. Visit Barbaritos on 23rd Street and tell them that the Underdogs sent you. Big shout out to the Liberty County softball team, who's the number 3 seed. They took down the 2 seed in Dixie County. They beat them 6-2 in the Class 1A state semifinal yesterday afternoon, and now they will be moving on to be playing Branford, the number 1 seed in the Class 1A state championship game. That is going to be today at 4 p.m. So actually, I need to check Max Preps and see if we've got a final there. The Bulldogs did lead the majority of that game yesterday, and Chamaya Williams, 2-run homer in the top of the 7th, helped secure the victory. So big shout out to Liberty County and the Bulldogs there on what they were able to accomplish. Hopefully they come away with the state championship today for 1A. Ryan Mulvey had Coach Andy Compton on today, who led the Chipley State Tigers to their first ever state baseball state championship in baseball. That was a very fun interview. Go back to our Facebook page, ESPN Northwest Florida. Click on the Inside Drive here after the Afternoon Underdogs and check out that interview. It was about an hour and 20 minutes into it, but great stuff there from Ryan Mulvey, the Inside Drive, and Coach Andy Compton. Do a little on this day here, a little Braves on this day. In 1919, Boston holds Hank Gowdy Day at the ballpark as he plays his first game after returning from the Army. Gowdy singled on the first pitch that he saw, but the Braves lost to the Reds 10-4 back in 1919. So glad that statisticians were a thing back there, so that we're privy to all of these on this day things. In 1920, Jack Scott allows 3 hits as the Braves beat the Reds 7-0. A little payback just a year later. In 1928, Jack Slattery quits as manager of the last place Braves and is replaced by Rogers Hornsby. Heck of a name to have S at the end of Rogers, or at the end of Roger. Like, hey, we've got a couple of them here. 1945, the Braves acquired Mort Cooper from the Cardinals. Cooper had been involved in a salary dispute with the Cardinals and was threatening to leave the club if his demands were not met. The Cardinals received Red Barrett, who won 21 games while Cooper struggled with arm troubles. In 1987, the Cubs beat the Braves 7-6 in 16 innings at Wrigley Field as Jerry Mumphrey doubles off Jim Acker year to bring Ryan Sandberg home with a winning run. Dale Murphy was 2 for 3 with 5 walks in the game. How about that stat line? Ozzie Virgil struck out 5 times, and the Braves lost despite walking 14 times. And the last one that we've got for you today on this day, after a 12-27 start, Atlanta fires manager Chuck Tanner and replaced him with Russ Nixon. Tanner was 153 with 208 losses during his tenure. All right, we're getting close, man, to the college football season. And, you know, one thing that has been the talk of the town for the last 3 years has been the transfer portal. And each year we kind of like to crown someone the transfer portal king. So you've got this year, Deion Sanders is now in the mix, even though you could have thrown him in the mix, even though over there at Jackson State, now he's with Colorado, and had a lot of players out, a lot of players in as well. So I've got 4 coaches for you here: Mike Norvell, Deion Sanders, Jeff Brom, who's doing a good job over there at Louisville, or Lincoln Riley. Which one of those 4 coaches, Tyler, would you have as the portal king for 2023's offseason?
I mean, I think if you're talking, obviously sheer numbers goes to Deion. He's had like 50-something guys. I mean, they've turned over like 70 players, I think, on that roster, almost 60, 65, which is just an incredible number when you're talking an 85-man roster. You've overturned like 3/4 of that roster. But Norvell has done a really good job in the portal since he's been at Florida State. A lot of their guys, they've picked up some big-time defensive talent. They picked up a couple wide receivers this offseason. Their best running back was an Oregon transfer. But this year was a lot more about quality than quantity. They've only picked up 9 or so guys, I want to say, from the portal so far, which, we're kind of towards the end of it. If you're not signed now, you're probably not, I'm not going to say not worth it, but you're not going to be a major contributor this year.
Right.
So I'll kind of go with Brom on this one. He's new to Louisville, so it's kind of more like he's trying to build his culture. Coming over from Purdue, coming back to his alma mater. Deion would get it based on quantity, but I'm not sure there was a ton. Maybe a ton of quality for Colorado, I guess, to be fair. And just bringing in Travis Hunter alone is probably the best signing of the offseason. So maybe I'll be nice and give it to Deion. I think he's definitely bringing some energy to Colorado. They sold out that stadium for their spring game, 40-something thousand.
Yeah,
which is impressive for them. And
that's double what their average or their previous record was.
More games than they've had at a home game in a decade at this point. So I think just based on him alone, and his son. His son is supposed to be Shadur.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be people are talking about as a legitimate first-round NFL-type talent next year. We'll see.
I wonder how much of that is like Bronny. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't want to say that he's not going to be a huge talent or anything. That verdict is way out.
Yeah.
But he made it into the McDonald's All-American game, and he was actually not, in terms of how they normally select the contestants or the participants for the McDonald's All-American game, he was outside of it. I think they take like the top 24, and he was around 40, but made it, and that's a lot to do with Daddy's name, but he's also, he's a heck of a ball player. At least he's shown that. Exactly. No doubt about it. So you do got to wonder, like, how much of this is on the play of Shadur, or is it on
the hype around
Deion. The hype around Deion in Colorado and all of that good stuff. A little bit of breaking news here before we get to Brian on the line with us. Branford High is leading as far as the top of the 5th goes, and this is a tweet that we found on Twitter from the FHSAA. But Branford was leading the Liberty County Bulldogs 4-3, but that was in the top of the 5th, though. So if we get another update before the end of the show, we will definitely share that. Brian, you're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. What's going on, my friend?
What's up? Hey, what's up, Tyler Bishop?
What's up, Mr. Brian Taylor? How are you doing?
What's happening? Hey, I was going to say, let me tell you a name you can look at for the transfer portal that's going to help out the best team. They don't matter what they got to think about it. Dominic Lovett for the Georgia Bulldogs is going to be the man for the Georgia Bulldogs. You watch and see.
I love it, Brian. What position does Dom play?
He's wide receiver. He was the number 1 wide receiver for Missouri last year.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
1,000 or more yards, like almost 80 catches, and he's coming over to the 2-time national championship Georgia Bulldogs.
Is it going to be 3-time after 2023, Brian?
Well, I know your feelings will get hurt, David, but I'll tell you right now, we're looking pretty damn good, buddy.
I love it, man.
Pretty damn good.
Carson Beck or Brock Vandegrift?
Carson Beck. Vandergrift's going to transfer to Georgia Southern at the end of the year.
Hey, Clay Helton down there, though. That could be a fun little match show there.
I'm going to tell you right now, Vandergrift, he might get a little playing time only if Beck gets hurt. That's the only way.
Hey, Beck took like a whole quarter's worth of snaps in the national championship game, so
there's no doubt about that.
Let me tell you right now, our offensive line is still going to be nasty. Our defensive line's a little young, but we got plenty of talent.
Yeah, no.
Kirby ain't hurt nothing. I just want to call in because I know Tyler's on the radio, and I know he's a Bulldog fan.
Yes, sir.
Go Dogs, baby. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs, Mr. Taylor. Thank you.
Rub it in your face, David. Rub it in your face.
I love it, man. Hey, Brian, thanks so much for the call.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs, man. Now, one thing, first off, I love what Georgia's been able to do. Yes, it does slightly hurt. Now, the one thing that I do have going for me is that my good friend Tyler Bishop's a Bulldog fan, and my brother Will is a Bulldog fan. So, there's that slight side of me that's like, well, if it's not against Alabama, I'm all good for it, even though just a year ago it was against Alabama. But, man, it makes it a lot of fun. And I will say this, too, for back-to-back national championships, as a fan base, from the large majority that I see, especially the ones that I meet in person, they are not as obnoxious as the Alabama fan base and their dynasty, and still are, and the Florida Gators from, the Tim Tebow era. So, and maybe, just the ones that I'm running into are just not as, crazy as the rest of them or whatever it is. But I do got to give credit where it's due. And the Georgia Bulldogs do have a great fan base.
So, yeah, I'm not going to say we don't have our fair share of ones with the screws loose.
I mean, the SEC's got them all.
But it's also like, kind of to your point, though, when you're willing to acknowledge and be like, hey, I got to give you props for it, like, you're much less likely to get an adverse reaction from it. It does help if you're a good sport about it. If you're giving them crap, you're going to probably get crap in return.
If I was Jim from Tuscaloosa, they'd be like, I don't know about that, man.
Hey, so real quick, the softball game is in a lightning delay.
Oh, okay.
So as far as I can tell, it is still 4-3
in the top fifth. Yeah, no doubt. Which is not bad news if you're Liberty County. Give you a little time to kind of, all right, hey, look, this is what we need. We need one more run. We're at bat here. We're getting a little bit of a break. And I think when you're down sometimes, those lightning delays, those rain delays can work. That momentum can work in your favor. So that could be huge. Do you have that pulled up, the which one would you rather of the four quarterbacks? I think we have a minute left.
It was a duo. It was, would you rather have Allen Diggs versus Burrow and Jamar Chase? Like,
Allen and Diggs or Burrow and Chase. Man, at this point in time, give me Burrow and Chase.
It's hard not, especially like going back to that LSU connection. It's been their instantaneous day one since they both got to Cincinnati. I mean, now that Diggs and Allen have been great, but I think right now Burrow's the better quarterback, so I'm riding with the better quarterback, and if the wide receivers are comparable.
Yeah, no, and Jamar Chase, the dude is a stud. He was one of those guys that, it's just like Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's going to be playing with the Seahawks. When you take that year off, and he didn't necessarily take a full year off, JSN that is, but when you take one, I'm just like, I don't know, how much stock I can put into you.
People
like,
worry about a few drops in the preseason, but Jamar Chase has been bounced back ever since.
Well, and I think the most problematic of it all was when he said not having the lines on the ball was messing with his vision. Maybe it was just saying that to, stir up some drama and all that good stuff. But we are out for today. The Coach James Hale Show is going to be joining you guys live tomorrow from 7 to 9 a.m. The Inside Drive with Ryan Mulvey, Jay Henley is going to be kicking off at 11. And the Afternoon Underdogs tomorrow out there, Dave and Buster's on the patio, provided that we don't have rain. Y'all come hang out with us. Your Atlanta Braves are going to be coming up next. Keep it locked in to ESPN Northwest Florida.
ESPN Northwest Florida has the real local fishing report. Hi, this is Tim from Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle. Join me every Friday at 4:20 during the Afternoon Underdogs. It's accurate, detailed content from local anglers, plus fishing updates on Saturday and Sunday morning right when you hit the water. Advice and stories from local anglers. Tune into the Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle Fishing Report, exclusively on ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with your latest forecast on ESPN Northwest Florida this Tuesday. For tonight, very light showers and likely thunderstorms, and a low of 68 with a gentle breeze at 8 miles per hour out of the northeast. Tomorrow morning, possible thunderstorms and very light rain with temps around 76. In the afternoon and evening, a mixture of some clouds and a possibility of thunderstorms and a temperature near 78. This forecast is sponsored